Please be aware this was recorded during the closed beta, which means things could change, numbers may be tweaked, and I will add captions to this video if they do. However, I do not expect playstyles to change, but I will come back and redo the guide if required. Reinhardt Wilhelm is a man who took a hammer and said to himself, "Do you know what this hammer needs? More rockets." You see, a hammer with no rockets does not have enough rockets, so he engineered rockets into his hammer. Apparently being over 7 foot of pure muscle just isn't good enough for hammer swinging on its own. Let's get into his abilities and find out what he's all about. Reinhardt's weapon is of course his rocket hammer, a devastating melee weapon. The swing has a wide arc that will hit anything in vision within 4 meters of Reinhardt. It does 75 damage with a very small knockback, swinging once a second, and will hit multiple targets. Attacking does not affect Reinhardt's movement speed, but the hammer cannot score a headshot. Reinhardt's shift ability is Charge! Charge forward and smash an enemy against a wall. This has a bonkers 60-meter range, but will end the moment Reinhardt collides with a solid object. If an enemy is caught in the path, they will be stunned and smashed into the wall with Reinhardt, dealing 300 damage. Only one enemy can be pinned, others caught in the path will be knocked back. Once started, the direction of the charge can be adjusted by pressing left and right, but it cannot be cancelled unless Reinhardt smashes into an object. Player barriers and shields are not solid objects, and Reinhardt will happily charge through, pinning any enemies on the other side. Reinhardt's E ability is Fire Strike, launch a fiery projectile. This deals 100 damage and passes through barriers, shields and enemies, dealing its full damage to anything it passes through. This cannot score a headshot. Reinhardt's right click is Barrier Field, hold to deploy a frontal energy barrier. This is a 2000 HP shield that blocks all enemy damage with the exception of melee attacks, Reinhardt's Fire Strike, Winston's Tesla Cannon and Symmetra's Photon Orbs. While the shield is up, the camera switches to a third-person view and Reinhardt's movement speed is reduced. If the mouse button is released, the shield would immediately go down, and if down for 2 seconds will recharge its HP at 225 points a second. You can see the shield's health displayed in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. If the shield is destroyed, the ability will have a 5-second cooldown before it can be used again. Allies can shoot through the shield without a problem. Reinhardt's ultimate is Earth Shatter. Knock down all enemies in front of you. This ripples lightning through the ground in a 20-meter cone in front of Reinhardt, dealing 50 damage to every enemy hit and stunning them for 2.5 seconds. Shields and barriers will block the damage and the stun. Okay, that's the abilities, so when should you play Reinhardt? As long as there isn't already 2 tanks on your team, you can pick up Reinhardt on attack or defense. He is stronger on attack and stupidly good when pushing a payload, but his ability to cover his team and engage favourable fights with his ultimate is great on defense too. Reinhardt is a medium difficulty hero. Yes, swinging a hammer with rockets on it at people's squishy bodies and holding the right mouse button to shield is pretty easy, but positioning properly, knowing when to engage and landing the charge pin will take some practice. While the shield is active, Reinhardt cannot perform any other abilities, but your allies can, and the enemy cannot shoot back. Use the barrier to help your team push forward while dealing damage. This can be very strong against static defenders like Torbjorn, Widowmaker, Hanzo and Bastion, although your team will need to take out Bastion quickly as he'll drill through that barrier pretty fast. While at range, use Fire Strike to charge Reinhardt's ultimate. Remember, it will penetrate barriers, so don't be afraid to throw it out there whenever it's off cooldown. Try to hit multiple targets as this is more damage and more ultimate charge. Knowing when to engage will take time to learn and will depend on a lot of factors. How far are you from the enemy? Reinhardt's charge has a 60-meter range, which is huge, but there is little point closing massive distance if your team cannot follow up. You will accomplish little and just die. Who are you covering? Are they long-range damage dealers like Hanzo or Widowmaker? If so, they are not going to go charging in with you, so it is better to stay back and protect them while they deal their damage. And finally, how are the enemy positioned? Are you charging past big threats like Bastion or Torbjorn and leaving your team open to be picked off as they try to follow you into the fray? Once all this has been considered and you're happy to begin smashing nerds, aim for a target and try to pin them into a wall. Your top priority should be the enemy Reinhardt if they have one. Your charge will go through his shield and take him out of the fight, allowing your team to run and gun their way in. If they don't have a Reinhardt, target their supports when possible, but taking anyone out of the fight can only be a good thing. As soon as you're in, start swinging. You can adjust the arc of the hammer while it swings, so look around as you attack to try and hit as many targets as possible. Try to be aware of your surroundings. There may be moments when putting the shield back up would be better for your team than swinging the hammer. Reinhardt's weaknesses are his bulky frame and enemies with a height advantage. His bulky frame provides an easy target for enemies to charge their ultimates if his shield is down, and Reinhardt cannot do much to enemies above him. Fire Strike just isn't enough, and they can get their damage over your shield. Watch out for Pharah, Junkrat and McCree. A good McCree will throw his flashbang over your shield to get the stun, then take you out with a Fan the Hammer combat roll Fan the Hammer combo. Reinhardt's ultimate is a fairly long-range AoE stun. This can be used to create some big play of the game moments by charging into multiple enemies, smashing down the stun, then throwing out a fire strike and swinging for the fences to finish them off. But it can be incredible during a teamfight. Land the stun on multiple enemies, buying your team 2.5 seconds of free DPS, or use it to set up a guaranteed charge pin on a high-value target. And that about wraps up Reinhardt. Protect your team whilst looking for favourable engagements with his charge, then incapacitate multiple enemies with his AoE stun ultimate. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please click that like button. If you have any questions or disagree with anything said, please put it in the comments below. I'm intending to have all 21 release heroes covered before the game is out on May 24th, so subscribe to get all that future content. Take it easy, and I'll see you soon.